This is a traditional storyteller's story, like Cinderella, which means that it turns out a bit differently every time I tell it. So I may tell it again. Once upon a time, there was a little valley caught between the mountains. It was not so small that it was narrow and dark, but it could not have been regarded as broad either. But it was large enough that in the valley there was room for a small farm, and on the farm there lived a man called Jannie. Now the farm, of course, could not do everything that it needed for itself, though it managed most things. And so, on a fairly regular basis, members of the farm would go across the mountains and down the other side to a small coastal town to buy the things they needed that they could not make themselves. And Jannie, having been a couple of times, had met a young lady in the town who had become his sweetheart. So, of course, whenever there was something needed in the town, Jannie was always the first to volunteer to go. One spring morning, Jannie set off for the town and to see his sweetheart. He climbed up out of the valley, through the ploughed, cultivated fields, into the meadow, through the alpine meadow higher up where there were goats and sheep, and onto the rocky mountain itself, following the path up the side of the mountain. And as he neared the top, quite tired from his exertions, he was looking down at the ground and measuring his treads, when suddenly, in front of him, there was a shadow where no shadow should have been. Jannie looked up, and there, straddling the pass across the top of the mountains, was a dragon. A huge dragon, green, with yellow and gold scales all the way down its back, and huge silver claws. It appeared to be almost asleep, but as Jannie approached, one eye opened, and there was a deep twinkle of fire within it. And the dragon looked down, and the dragon said, "Hello, my Jannie. Hello, my dinner." Jannie was a bit taken aback, as you can imagine. How do you know my name?" he came out with quickly, as a way of just gaining a bit of time. "Because," said the dragon, "I am your dragon, and you are my dinner. I know everything about you. I am your dragon." Jannie thought quickly. He desperately needed to get down to the town to tell his sweetheart what was happening. "If you know everything about me, dragon, then you also know that I am an honest man? Yes, said the dragon. And that my word is my bond, said Jannie. Yes, said the dragon. Well, said Jannie, you'll also know that if I do not get to say goodbye to my sweetheart, and she believes that I have betrayed her and simply not come, then I shall be very bitter. And I'm sure you wouldn't want your dinner bitter now, would you? No, said the dragon, wondering where this was leading. Well, said the Jannie, if you will give me permission to continue on my way to see my sweetheart and tell her what has happened, I will give you my word that I shall return, and then your dinner will not be bitter. Said the dragon, and he thought for a while. And then he said, all right, but don't be too long. And he moved aside so that Jannie could go down the mountain to see his sweetheart. When she saw him coming, his sweetheart ran out of the town and threw her arms about him and said, "Oh, all winter I've missed you. It's so good to see you, my Jannie." "What's the matter? Are you not pleased to see me too?" "Yes, I am pleased to see you," said Jannie. But then he explained to her what had happened with the dragon on the mountain. "Never mind," she said. "Just don't go back. Stay here with me." "Surely," said Jannie, "you wouldn't want a man who didn't keep his word." His sweetheart thought about this for a minute and then said, "No, you're right. Wait here a moment." And she ran inside. When she came out again, she was carrying her shawl and her gloves. And Jannie said, "Why have you got them?" And she said, "Because I'm coming with you." And Jannie said, "But that would be dangerous." And she said, "But we agreed. We would do everything together. And this may not be the best thing that we could have imagined, but we shall still do it together." Then Jannie thought for a moment, and he agreed. And so off they went up the mountain. The dragon was sat at the top of the mountain, looking down, waiting for his dinner. And he saw Jannie coming. "Here comes my Jannie, here comes my dinner." And then he looked again and he said, "There's another behind Jannie. My dinner comes double." As they got closer, the dragon shouted down the mountain to Jannie, "Hey, Jannie, who is that who comes with you?" Jannie looked up, but as he looked up, his sweetheart pushed past him in front of him and shouted back up to the dragon, "I am the daughter of the storm. For my father is the thunder and my mother is the lightning. And I eat small dragons." The dragon took one look at her formidable personific person, at this formidable person in front of him, and took off and flew off towards the sun in the west, vanishing as a black spot against the sunset. And Jannie and his sweetheart, they went back down the mountain and got married and lived happily for a very long time and had lots of children. Thank you. Goodbye.